Nadia Osman, and my sign language interpreter for today is Ilhan Noor. This is the Muslim Inside, the show that brings you your rights expert Naomi Barasa. But until then, first let's give you the headlines.
This day has been marked internationally for the last 30 years. Yet it is only today that Kenya is joining the community of nations to officially mark this significant day.
Minorities' rights. Kenya joins the world in marking International Minority Rights Day, the first time in Kenya's history.
No question that the Kenyan people have suffered tremendously due to these climate shocks.
Floods response. Kenya receives 150 million Kenya shillings from the US government to support floods mitigation.
Countries like Singapore, like Malaysia, like Korea, we all have been talking about them. We've been saying, oh, you know, we were at the same level with Korea, but today they are different from us. They made tough decisions.
Food security. Kenya sets plans to end a 500 billion Kenya shillings food import bill through tax adjustments and agricultural reform.
Thank you for that. Now, on a top story, the United States has announced 150 million Kenya shillings humanitarian assistance to support Kenya's flood response efforts. The U.S. ambassador to Kenya, Meg Whitman, made the announcement while touring the warehouse of the Kenya Red Cross Society in Nairobi. The new funding will be used to provide emergency shelter assistance, relief commodities and hygiene kits to promote safe and healthy practices amid the ongoing floods.
Kenya is facing its worst floods in decades, with over 500,000 people impacted, including over 100,000 families who have been displaced from their homes.
76 households comprising of approximately 380,000 Kenyans were displaced. We have thus set up, as a government, an additional camp to accommodate those who have been displaced. This whole happenstance now raises the total camps to 170 nationally, with 109,179 households comprising of 545,895 people displaced so far. But it's also good to say some of them have since gone back to their residences.
This follows one of the worst droughts in Kenya's history, which left over 5 million people facing acute food insecurity and 1 million children facing acute malnutrition.
I really want to thank the U.S. Embassy and the American people through USAID, Your Excellency, Madam Ambassador, for the great work that you have been doing to support Kenyans in all situations. You can see the consignment that is here, worth over 250,000 US dollars and more, to support this El Nino emergency response. People who are in dire straits, as you may have seen, members of the fourth estate, it goes down to temporary shelter, even equipment, the kitchen equipment, water treatment tablets, and all of the other accessories, including mattresses and even blankets. It's really amazing. And there's no better way to touch the lives of Kenyans than that.
The United States government said it is committed to supporting the people of Kenya during these hard times and has allocated 30 million Kenya shillings of the 150 million shillings to meet the immediate needs of Kenyans through the Kenya Red Cross Society.
No question that the Kenyan people have suffered tremendously due to these climate shocks. Kenya is not alone, but the United States is a committed partner to the Kenyan people, the Kenyan government, and the Kenyan Red Cross Society. Together, we are working with county governments and other donors, the UN and NGOs, to meet the humanitarian needs of the Kenyan people most affected by these floods. Efficient and effective local partners like the Kenyan Red Cross are fundamental for any successful disaster response, which is why I'm pleased to announce over 150 million Kenyan shillings in new funding from the United States to support Kenya's flood response efforts. 38 million of which will go directly to support the Red Cross's efforts.
The remaining 112 million Kenya shillings will be allocated to additional partners responding to the floods.
Kenya is facing its worst floods in decades. 500,000 people, as you said, a little over 500,000 people have been affected, including over 160 people, now I guess 174, that have tragically lost their lives, with over 100,000 families who've been displaced from their homes. And ironically, this comes after one of the worst droughts in Kenya's history that left over 5 million people facing acute food insecurity and 1 million children facing acute malnutrition.
This new flood support is in addition to the $800 million the United States has provided to support the emergency response and long-term resilience to Kenya's historic drought over the past 3 years. Kenya is facing humanitarian shocks and development challenges in the face of climate change. Reporting for Muslim Insight, I'm Kasim Mustafa.
Thank you for that report, Mustafa. Now, President William Ruto has said he will continue with his plans to tackle Kenya's staggering 500 billion annual expenditure on food inputs, unlike neighbors such as Uganda and Tanzania. The president said Kenyans will have to be patient with his plans that involve a combination of tax adjustments and targeted agricultural reforms to boost local reproduction and reduce dependency on foreign food sources. The president was speaking during a joint interview with media houses at State House in Nairobi.
Countries like Singapore, like Malaysia, like Korea, we all have been talking about them. We've been saying, oh, you know, we were at the same level with Korea, but today they are different from us. They made tough decisions. That's why they are where they are. We have to make tough decisions if we have to catch up. I mean, if we want to continue to make convenient, you know, politically correct decisions, we will continue to remain in the same place.
President Ruto expressed concern over the significant drain on Kenya's economy caused by the massive spending on food imports. The president highlighted the need for self-sufficiency and resilience in the agricultural sector to ensure food security for the nation.
Tumefanya lolote kupunguza gharama ya chakula? Yes, we have done major steps. The price of food items is today lower than it was a year ago. It is a fact. Uchumi wa numbers, and these are not my figures. We've brought down inflation from 9 point something to now 6.8. Those are figures, global figures of the World Bank. Number two, our economy is growing at 5.4%. Not my figures, World Bank figures, right? In fact, they quote Kenya is the 29th fastest growing economy globally.
He said the country cannot continue spending money on importing food while the neighboring countries are utilizing the available resources to meet their needs.
We are importing 500 billion Kenya shillings every year of food items. 500 billion. From edible oil to maize to rice to all those 500 billion US dollars we are importing. Uganda does not import that much food. Tanzania does not import that much food. We are the only country that imports that much food. Why? Because we haven't paid as much attention to agriculture. And number two, we need to understand that while Uganda 80% is arable with rain, Kenya only 15%.
The president said he has set clear plans that will transform the country through job creation, irrigation infrastructure, modernization of farming techniques, and the provision of financial support to farmers, among others.
We need to pay attention to our agriculture. the reason why we have invested, and that is why in the manifesto that I sold to the people of Kenya, agriculture, modernization, mechanization is one of the big tickets that I decided that I'm going to do. We have changed the trajectory on our staple food. Today, we are producing more in terms of maize, which is our staple food. In fact, my plan is that by next year, we shouldn't be importing maize into Kenya. We should be producing enough. This year, we have increased our production of maize by 40%.
The president emphasized the importance of collective efforts in achieving the ambitious goals set forth in his plan, while urging citizens to embrace the changes and assured them that the government is committed to creating a more resilient and self-reliant nation.
I have only one mission: to change Kenya. And by the way, I have every intention to do it. And I know very well that it's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult. But it is never too late to do the right thing. You cannot be wrong by doing the right thing. So I intend to transform Kenya. We have always known and wanted to do what we know is right. We know we should create jobs. We know what we need to do to create jobs. We know we should control our expenditure. We know what but the thing that has been lacking is somebody to lead the way in doing it. I intend to lead the way.
Salma Salim, The Muslim Insight.
Thank you for that report, Salma. Now, 300 households who were affected by the recent floods in Mororo and Madogo areas in Tana River County have received insurance claim payouts from Britain to help themselves in rebuilding their houses and buy items which they lost during the floods. The money will be disbursed in 3 phases, with each family receiving nearly 47,000, whether the first and the second payout will see the households receive 12,109 each, while the remaining balance will be paid on the final phase.
Mwaka yote tunaadhirika, lakini mwaka hii ndio tumeadhirika sana. Hatuna manyumba yote zinalala chini, mbuzi yote imeenda na maji, shamba kama ni ndizi yote yameenda na maji, kama mashini anaenda na maji, hatuna chochote. Sisi tunakaa hivi tu. Ndio kitu siku ile ilikuwa inalia jua barabara. Serikali atusaidie, na serikali usaidizi ametuletea. Maana natuletea sisi, wakati serikali inatuhamisha hapa, tunakuja hapa Madogo. Serikali ametusaidia mahema Red Cross, na natusaidia chakula, na natusaidia mtungi ya maji, natusaidia bado maji pia, natusaidia maji, na bado choo pia, natusaidia choo. Kwa hivyo leo pia tuko na pesa cash ametupatia, ametuwekea kwa simu.
Tunashukuru kwa siku ya leo, tuliweza kupata msaada wa fedha kwa kiasi cha fedha 12,000 na mamia juu. Tulikuwa tunaomba, kuna wengi waliobakia nyuma hawajafanikiwa kufikia kuandikwa kupata mradi huu wa fedha. Tulikuwa tunaomba hizo shirika ambazo si za kiserikali na za kiserikali zitusaidie na waweze kusaidia wale wengine pia hawajapata kuandikwa, wafikie kuandikwa, wapate kupata huu msaada wa pesa.
Vile mfuriko imekuja na bado Mororo inaendelea kuzalisha, watu wengine walioko hapa wasirudi Mororo, wajaribu kutafuta mahali pa kuishi. Sisi kama serikali ya kaunti tuko tayari kuwapatia ardhi na watu waishi. Tuko tayari kuwatafutia ardhi, watu waishi. Na kuna jambo moja hapo nataka nigusie. Sisi tuko na hii mpangilio ya cluster programs. Cluster program maana yake ni watu watoke mtoni wakuje juu, watoke chini wakuje juu. Huu wakati mvua imenyesha, tumeona athari sana kubwa. Mambo ya mfuriko ndio tunataka tuwe tahadhari nayo, tubadilishe fikra. Hii mambo ya cluster program watu wasidharau. Garseni juzi wale walikuwa wanapinga, wanasema kwamba walikuwa wakisema kwamba kumbe haya mambo ni kweli, sababu walitest wao wenyewe, walionja wakaona athari ya mambo ya mfuriko ama mambo ya maji.
Thank you for that. Now, President William Ruto has retracted his commitment to fostering inclusivity and protecting the rights of ethnic minorities and marginalized communities in the country. The president's address marked the first official celebration of the International Day of Minority Rights at the Bomas of Kenya, marking a significant day in Kenya's history, aligning the nation with global efforts to safeguard the rights of minority groups. The president's speech, delivered by Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Musalia Mudavadi.
On 18th December 1992, the United Nations General Assembly adopted the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Persons belonging to national or ethnic, religious, and linguistic minorities to protect and promote minority rights. This day has been marked internationally for the last 30 years. Yet it is only today that Kenya is joining the community of nations to officially mark this significant day. It therefore gives me much joy and delight to join you on this inaugural and auspicious celebration of the International Minority Rights Day. I extend my high regards to all of us who have joined in from the length and breadth of our great country and commend you for your commitment to the cause of minorities and marginalized communities. I am also happy to have toured the various exhibitions showcasing the rich and diverse cultural heritage of our minority and marginalized communities. I have had the unique opportunity to rehash the reasons behind our national clarion call of shared prosperity and why our collective consciousness underscores the concept of unity in diversity as a key pillar of our national unity. It is indeed befitting that this year's theme is recognizing, empowering, and protecting the rights of minorities and the marginalized. This theme will keep us talking about and addressing the challenges, aspirations, and the realities around our ethnic minorities and marginalized communities, and prepare us for the journey that we must walk in order to achieve these aspirations. The preamble to our Constitution espouses our pride in our ethnic, cultural, and religious diversity and recognizes the aspiration of all Kenyans for a government based on the essential values of human rights, equality, freedom, democracy, social justice, and the rule of law. These values must be extended to ethnic minorities and marginalized communities, and no less.
Thank you for that. Now, Mombasa Governor Abdulsamad Nasir says early childhood development education, famously known as ECDE in Mombasa, will be free. The move is aimed at boosting early childhood education in the county, with the governor announcing a free early childhood development education across the entire county. The governor said the pupils will continue to benefit from the free school feeding program.
Speaking during a work program in Jomvukuwo, Jomvi sub-county, the governor said the move by Mombasa County aligns with the government's commitment to provide free and compulsory basic education that is equitable, qualitative and relevant to Kenya's development goals, guided by the principle of universal access to education for every child.
Na sasa nimetoa amri kuanzia financial year hii na ukuja, watoto wote wenye kusoma katika shule za chekechea za county, shule zitakuwa hazina ruhusa tena kuchaji pesa tutawalipa sisi shule, kama vile nilivyotoa amri ya watoto wa chini ya miaka 5. Na nikiweza kufaulu hii kwa shule zetu, next tutaingia kwa shule ambazo kwamba ni shule za jamii.
As part of the program, the county government will continue to provide free meals under the school feeding program, a move that is expected to significantly increase enrollment rates and promote inclusivity in early childhood education. This will be done in early childhood development education schools that are under the county and then later extend to community schools.
Nilitoa ahadi na tukatekeleza ya kwa watoto wetu wa chekechea shule ambazo kwamba ni za county. Watoto wote watakuwa ni wenye kula bure. Na tumeweza kutekeleza. Sasa hivi tunavyozungumza katika financial year hii, mwaka katika kiserikali huanza kuanzia mwezi wa Julai. Tunataka kuweka mpangilio wa kuweza kujenga majiko zaidi.
The governor said the Department of Education will be introducing a program dubbed Skills Mitaani, a program which will ensure the youths are trained in tertiary courses and will be fully sponsored by the county government. Reporting for Muslim Insight, I'm Lena Mose.
Good news coming from Mombasa County. Thank you, Lena, about that report. Now, 200 residents of Magarini village in Magarini sub-county, Kilifi County, have launched a beach cleanup campaign aimed at making the environment along the Indian Ocean beach more attractive to tourists and create job opportunities for the youth. The residents have called on the government to join hands and save the ocean from pollution.
The residents and members of the Mambu Beach Operators, a community-based organization, are carrying out a weekly beach cleanup exercise to prevent plastic pollution, which continues to adversely affect marine life and also create a conducive environment for tourists who are now shunning away from the beach due to its dirt.
Kitu kimoja ni kwamba watu wengi wakija huku baharini huwa wanaona mazingira ni machafu, hata upande wa tourism inakuwa si vizuri. So tukaamua tuanze mambo ya kusafisha bahari ili tu attract tourism. Alafu tukaanzisha restaurant yetu ambapo tukisafisha wageni wetu watakuwa wanaweza wakaenda wakapata kinywaji ama chakula, kwa sababu Mambu hakuna hoteli ama restaurant iko kwa bahari.
They say the dirty beaches have left many youth jobless due to lack of tourists, leading to the area's economy going down following the closure of hotels and restaurants owing to lack of tourists, and called on the government to carry out an aggressive campaign to attract both local and foreign tourists in the coastal region.
Nataka nikaweze kusisitiza zaidi kwa zile idara mbalimbali ambao ni za uchumi samawati zikaweze kusaidia hawa ambao ni wavuvi wamekuwa hapa na hawa vijana wetu ambao ni mabeach boy pia wakaweze kupata, kama ni certificate, kama ni hizo tent, kama ni viti. Ni ombi langu zaidi, kama tutashirikiana na viongozi mambo yatakuwa rahisi.
Tumejumuika sisi sote kama community tutengeze jambo ambalo kwa hakika litawafurahisha watalii. Iwapo watalii watafurahika, hapo kuna nafasi nzuri sana kuonyesha kwamba vijana wetu watapata ajira kutoka kwa wale watalii ambao kuja hapa.
They have called on the government to form and equip rescue teams along the beaches that will be able to respond quickly in case of accidents in the sea.
Na sana tunatumia mikono yetu. Hatuna vifaa vya kujisaidia ama kujitetea katika mambo na hygiene. Kama mnavyotuona hapa, tumetumia tu mikono yetu na vifaa ambavyo tumevitoa tu nyumbani. Hatuna vifaa muafaka vya kuweza kutusaidia.
Na tutajitolea kuwa na wageni wakija hapa, in case wageni wanaogelea hapa, watajua vizuri hapa. Imetukia bahati mbaya, mtoto ama mzee hajui kuogelea anakufa maji, tunamwokoa mapema ili wasiwe na hiyo mambo ya kwamba mahali fulani Angeles Bay mtu fulani wageni wanakuja wanakufa maji. Hiyo itaisha kabisa.
Reporting for Muslim Insight, my name is Mariam Star.
Thank you for that report, Mariam. Now, moving on, Safe Surgical Aid, an NGO dedicated to providing medical services to underserved communities, held an awareness campaign on Saturday under the theme "Don't Hide Me" for children living with developmental challenges. The event aimed at echoing the plight of not only the children but parents raising them. It brought together key figures and members of the community.
The Don't Hide Me campaign served as a rallying call for parents, guardians and the wider community to unite in support of children with developmental disabilities.
God has not hidden that child. There is no reason for us as parents why we should hide a child. During the manufacturing process, if you manufacture something and you don't find it fit or it does not meet the standards you wanted, there is an option of removing it from the market or of option of not releasing it into the market. So but the fact that God himself in his wisdom said, I will not hide, because the choice God had, if he has seen it that this is not what he wanted to produce or create, what the option was is for him to eliminate it immediately or later on. But God has seen in his wisdom that we should have this child grow into food like Abdullah here.
Ali Bashir, Safe Surgical Aids co-founder, talked about the organization and the work it had been doing for the past 3 years.
Is an NGO dedicated to providing medical services to underserved communities. Most of the things we do, other than organizing for interactive sessions, we do outreaches. We travel where usually you don't get surgical services. That is where the name Safe Surgical comes from.
Speaking to those present, Dr. Safia Aden, the director of the Kenya Institute of Special Education, spoke on the low number of Muslims who recently graduated from the institute and emphasized the need for Muslims to study and take up special needs teaching courses.
I was very disappointed that out of 867 graduates, only 5 were Muslims. Leave alone Somalia and all that, with Muslim names, there were only 5. So that is less than 1%. If we can kindly take up these opportunities to do the trainings, to do these teaching programs, it will be very beneficial for us in the Muslim society.
A declaration was signed during the event pledging commitment to the well-being and empowerment of children living with disabilities in the country. The declaration was signed by the members present and the organizers of the event, promising to fight for change from the legislative level to the grassroots levels.
The reform that is ongoing in the country, it will going to be part of it, and we're going to submit your memorandum to the relevant agencies who are pushing reform around health, around education, around matters rehabilitation. Right now, Disability Act 2003 is undergoing amendment to conform with the current constitution and also Convention on the Right of Persons with Disabilities. Right at its heart is issue of rehabilitation, issue of habilitation, issues of health care, and then also issues of other support to persons with disabilities. So this is quite amazing, and we look forward to another meeting next year around this time.
Well, that impactful story brings us to the end of the first part of our show. We're going to go on a short break, but we're coming back. And once again, the discussion of today will be Kenyans boycotting Israeli products in the country. And joining me for that conversation virtually is human rights activist Naomi Barasa. So do not go anywhere.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
La kutafakari.
Ni haramu kumwoa mwanamke ambaye ni mushrika, ni haramu. Kadhalika ni haramu kumwozesha binti yako Muislamu mwanamume ambaye ni mushrik. Na leo suala hili watu wanalifanyia tasahul. Utamkuta Muislamu au binti wa Kiislamu ameolewa na baniani au ameolewa na Myahudi au ameolewa na Mnasara kwa sababu ya masalih dunyawia, na wengine huolewa na Mashia.
La kutafakari.
Discover a world of learning where the best of American and British education comes together in the heart of Kenya. Welcome to ILM Academy, where young minds flourish and dreams are realized.
ILM stands for Innovate, Lead, Mentor. In our school, we learn Arabic classes and we take also Madrasa classes.
At ILM Academy, we pride ourselves on offering a unique blend of the American and British curriculum, providing your child with a well-rounded education that nurtures creativity, critical thinking, and global awareness.
Our school uses a unique and innovative learning system. There are a lot of favorites I have in the school, but the one thing that stands out the most is playing football with my friends and bonding during meals.
Our experienced and passionate educators are committed to cultivating an environment that sparks curiosity and encourages students to explore the world around them. With the small class sizes, each child receives personalized attention, ensuring they reach their full potential.
We want to excel in education and our religious studies as well. We believe that every child is a holistic being.
But education isn't just about the classroom. At ILM Academy, we believe in fostering a love for learning through a diverse range of extracurricular activities, from sports to arts, creating well-rounded individuals ready to face the challenges of the future. Enroll your child today and give them the gift of a world-class education. Our admissions are now open. ILM Academy, where every child's journey begins.
Kitabu chenye uongofu kilichoteremshwa kwa mpangilio maalum.
Sura ikiitwa Madania inamaanisha iliteremshwa Mtume sallallahu alaihi wasallam alipokuwa kwa Madina.
Kila sura imepewa jina rasmi na sababu zake za kimsingi.
Inaitwa Suratun Nisa'il Kubra, sura ya wanawake kubwa.
Fahamu sababu za kuteremshwa Qur'an na matukio ya kipekee katika utaratibu huu.
Asema Mwenyezi Mungu wa Nuha, nakumbukeni kisa cha Nuh, tumpomlingania kabla, tukamjibu yale mambo aliyoyaomba, tukawa ni wenye kumwokoa yeye na ahli yake.
Ungana na Profesa Muhammad Salim Badamana katika malengo ya Qur'an kila siku ya Jumapili saa 11 kamili jioni katika Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for staying with us here on Horizon TV. As I mentioned earlier before we went on our break, today's topic of discussion will be all about Kenyans boycotting Israeli products. And joining me virtually for that conversation is none other than Naomi Barasa, a human rights activist who will be able to tell us in detail how Kenyans can assist when it comes to boycotting Israeli products in the country. Naomi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Nadia. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I think the topic of discussion, as I mentioned, will be all about how Kenyans play a very big role when it comes to boycotting Israeli products in the country. And the first thing that I want you to obviously is introduce yourself and what you do, but also touch on what objectives are associated with boycotting Israeli products in the country.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me in your studios on this show. My name is Naomi Barasa. I'm a human rights activist, as you said. I work on every human rights issue as long as there are human rights violations.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, we have been mobilizing Kenyans to stand up in solidarity with Palestine, but also call out the Israeli government on the genocide, the ongoing genocide, but also the 75 years occupation and apartheid. And so I would say at the moment I am majorly involved in pro-Palestine activism.
Now, Naomi, when we're talking about boycotting Israeli products in the country, somebody can ask the question, what does it have to do with either standing in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Palestine?
So I want to start by saying that boycotting products is not a new strategy. It's a strategy that has been used in many instances. It's a strategy that has been used in Kenya and elsewhere. To begin with, if people will remember when South Africa was going through the apartheid regime,
yes,
boycotts and in full, I would say BDS, boycotting, divesting, and sanctioning is a strategy that was used against the apartheid regime, basically to put pressure on them to end apartheid. So it's not something new. In Kenya, it has been used before. I remember many years ago when I was still a young lady, we had, in the early 90s, we had a global boycott on Del Monte, for example, when Del Monte was identified to be very, very, very bad with labor rights, with violating the rights of the workers, but also with violating the rights of the neighborhood. So boycott was used, and it is basically intended at putting pressure, that's one. And they put in a few changes here and there. Whether it was satisfactory or not is another question, but at least it was used. And then we have seen also when in the world, when Tesco, the supermarket, the supermarket chain, was abusing human rights. There was again a global pressure on boycotting Tesco until they rectified the issues that had been pointed out on workers' rights. And then here we have Kakuzi that has had a lot of issues with labor rights. And globally, again, in the countries where Kakuzi sends fruits, then we saw boycott and Kakuzi started putting in place some reforms. So it's not a new strategy. And in the case of Israel, there have been many other strategies that have been applied to try and convince Israel to stop the apartheid. But these strategies have not worked. Israel has been held accountable in many other platforms and opportunities. But as you know, Israel is one of the countries that enjoy big brother relationships with US and others, so they will not be held accountable as is required in the international law and international human rights law, because if they were to be held accountable genuinely, then right now they would be responsible for war crimes and crimes against humanity. But this is not happening. We all know because of how they relate with America, with Britain, with Canada, with France, Germany, and these are some of the major voices in the UN Security Council. So what else are people left with? is to use extra legal, it's a legal, boycott is a legal strategy, but extra legal in the sense that we are not going to go to the judiciary or international law instruments to hold Israel accountable. So what we do is we withdraw support from the products that they produce, so that we stiffen the economy, put pressure through economic sanctions. We also do this to products that are not necessarily Israeli, but are supporting the war.
Yes.
For example, they are funding the munitions and stuff. So basically that's what we do, so that the war can be starved of resources, so that we can start seeing, number one, results on ceasefire. But number two, we can now start seeing Israeli reducing on its apartheid.
Yes.
The 75 years old apartheid, how they have occupied. And once that is done, they will be ready to sit down and talk to the Palestinians as equals. But as long as they still have the economic power, which is fueled by us, they will not look at Palestinians as equals. So that's the reason why we use BDS as a strategy.
Naomi, now that brings us to my next question. You've talked about, obviously, its impact on probably businesses. Let's talk about the economic impact for anyone who's wondering, how does boycotting Israeli products or companies that support Israel's genocide in Palestine, what's the economic impact? What would you tell anyone who's listening?
The economic impact on who?
On when it comes to boycotting Israeli products?
Oh, it's major. I mean, like, for example, you have seen in some countries, chains like McDonald's has closed.
Yes.
King Burger. Is it called King Burger or Burger King?
Yes.
They are closing in some countries. You have seen some companies have already started saying that, oh, you know, we are not Israeli, we are not supporting the war. But we have also seen some companies that have, for example, Puma.
Yes.
Has withdrawn its support for the Israeli football company.
Yes.
That is major. It's not a small thing. It's big globally. And in Israel, it directly affects the economy of Israel, but also in replica, it also affects other interests that have interest in that football economy in Israel. So it has major impact. That's number one. But number two, legitimacy-wise, when companies see big companies like Puma withdrawing, then they realize, oh gosh, this is a legitimate initiative. This is a legitimate discourse, and we want to be part of it.
Yes.
They want to associate, especially those people who associate with Puma. They also want to associate with the decision that Puma has taken. So the impact is big.
Yes. Naomi, and just to continue, I know you're naming off some companies and probably organizations that are being boycotted around the world. In Kenya, what are some of the companies, like, give us a list that Kenyans should be avoiding or boycotting, you know, in solidarity with Palestine?
There are many companies that are Israeli in this country.
Yes.
And there are many products that are also Israeli, but there are also companies that are not necessarily Israeli, but they support the genocide, the ongoing genocide in Gaza. So the list is long. I will mention, I might not exhaust it, but I will mention the key ones that Kenyans must boycott, beginning with the Carrefour supermarket. Carrefour supermarket, number one, is directly responsible for feeding the Israeli occupation
feeding.
Sorry, the Israeli occupation soldiers, the IDF. So they are feeding them to be well fed, to fight well.
Yes.
Fighting well means bombing Gaza more, killing children more, killing women more, killing the elderly more, killing doctors and journalists, among others, and the UN workers, humanitarian workers. So they're simply saying, we will keep you healthy so that you can kill more. So Carrefour supermarket is one supermarket to
avoid,
boycott. Then we have Coca-Cola.
Yes.
Coca-Cola for many years has had many bad things, including human rights violations, labor rights violations in Kenya and elsewhere, but particularly in Israel. For many years, they've been among the people whose money has been going to fuel the genocide, but also the occupation in Israel. So you do not want your money to be used to go and kill and ethnically cleanse a whole community. We also have Unilever, and Unilever comes with many products, including Blue Band, including Omo, Ariel. So all the products that are produced by Unilever, again, they fall under that category. We have Puma in Kenya, and Butter Shoe Company or Butter Shops stock Puma quite a bit, and Puma is a company we must continue boycotting for the same reasons. We have Java, we have Art Cafe, we have HP laptop, and we are saying because a lot of us have HP laptops, we might not be able to throw them right now.
Yes.
But the strategy we are using is we are using a sticker to put on our HP laptops and say, this is my last HP. And for those of us who are getting new laptops, we are avoiding HP. Make sure your sticker is very visible so that everyone can see that this is your last HP. And then we have, I talked about Carrefour. I talked about Coca-Cola.
You've mentioned Carrefour supermarket. You've mentioned
and then we
Carrefour
have Baraka Foods.
Yes.
And I want to emphasize Baraka Foods because Baraka Foods is number one Israeli, but number two, they uprooted olive trees for Palestinians to put up Baraka Foods industries. That is two things. Those are two very major violations. Number one, it's an ecological injustice. You do not uproot trees to put up industries. That's number one. But number two, it's a violation to the economic, social, and cultural rights of the Palestinians because the Palestinians rely a lot on olive trees for their economy. So the right to food has been taken away, the right to own property, the right to land. So there are many violations in those two acts. So Baraka Foods, the wines, their wines, they also have food, they're called what? Spices, food spices. So any store that stocks that, please avoid that. Just just tell them no thank you. It's not, this is poisonous. I cannot be fueling genocide. I cannot be using my money to kill children. So yes, I don't know if there's, I mean, there are many that I know I haven't, I don't have off-head, but those are some of the major ones that we must boycott and make sure that, oh, there is also Pizza Hut. There's Pizza Hut, avoid Pizza Hut, and there is another one called, it's a subsidiary of the Art Cafe. It's called something Hut.
I know there has been a list that's been going on, and probably
the actual name.
Yes,
yeah, but these are some of the companies in this country that we must avoid.
Now, Naomi, let's talk about any awareness campaigns that are being that are going on. Probably you could probably tell people any awareness campaigns, and I know that there are some events that have already been organized. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about them.
So, since October 9, Kenyans of goodwill and human rights defenders and human rights organizations convened and established a network.
Yes.
A network that has been spearheading activism on solidarity, but also awareness creation on the Palestinian-Israeli question. And I'm avoiding to call it conflict like many people have called it, because it's not a conflict. So we have convened to educate people exactly what it is, and in its actual and correct terms, we call it genocide for the killing that has been going on since October 7th, sorry. But for the last 75 years, what people are calling conflict is not conflict. It's colonialism, it's occupation, and it's apartheid. And it must be called by its right name. Because if we don't do that, then we will lose an opportunity to hold Israel accountable, because they have violated human rights, they have committed war crimes, they have committed crimes against humanity. So we have been educating people on what the Palestinian-Israeli question is. We have a lot of forums that we hold. We do a lot of media awareness, but we also do a lot of vigils to just stand in solidarity with the Palestinians, because this is a very difficult moment for them. And so they must know that there are people who are standing in solidarity with them, just like the whole world has been doing. And we are very encouraged by the people of the world. We are not so happy with the governments, but the people are super. They have taken their role as ought to be. So we do a lot of education. Artists, we have artists in the coalition, in the Kenya-Palestine coalition, who are using art to tell the story, who are using art to educate people. We have graffiti artists, like on the 24th, for the next 3 days, 24 for 3 days, there will be graffiti artists all over in Madare using graffiti to tell the story of Palestine. We have organized Christmas solidarity events. This is focusing on standing in solidarity with Bethlehem. As you might all know, Christmas has been cancelled in Bethlehem, the very city that Jesus Christ was born. And for those who proclaim Christianity, Christmas is a major, major, major event. It's a big foundation. It's a foundational event on their religion and faith. So the fact that it's been cancelled in Bethlehem, it's not a small thing. So we have organized 3 We have organized a series of events in 3 places. At Cheche Bookshop, and we'll be doing a vigil today starting at 4 to 7 p.m. We have a big collective of activists, ranging from activists to artists to theologians to experts, international law experts who will be speaking and unpacking this whole issue, the Palestinian-Israeli question. And then we also have artistic performances. We have, we will be hearing from Christians from Palestine.
Yes.
We'll be hearing from Christians from South Africa, but also Christians from Kenya.
Yes.
What do they think about this whole genocide and the occupation and apartheid?
Thank you so
and
much for
then
that.
we also have the same replication of activities in Mathare on the eve of Christmas, and this will be a vigil just before Christmas, and then we'll have another one at Jivanji on the 26th of this month after Christmas on Boxing Day. And our theme of this solidarity event is called Jesus is Bombed Out of Bethlehem. And so this is a Christian-led solidarity activities.
Yes.
And so we want to debunk the myth that people have propagated for many years, and especially the Western media, that this is a Christian-Muslim conflict or it's a Israeli-Muslim conflict.
Yes.
So we just want to debunk it and say that, look, this is apartheid and occupation, nothing less, nothing more.
Yes.
Yeah, so those are some of the things we've been doing. Of course, we've also done a petition to Parliament. We are inviting our government to withdraw the Israeli ambassador from, our ambassador from Israel and expel the Israeli ambassador. We have been doing protest marches to just, to call out on Palestine, but also pressure our government not to stand pro-Israel, because we cannot stand pro the oppressor. We must stand with the oppressed, especially because of our history. We come from a history of colonial occupation.
Yes.
We had our colonialists here. And so our history and Palestinian history is very similar. And therefore, we cannot afford to stand with the colonialists. Yeah. And then I would also want to just re-emphasize that Palestinian-Israeli question is an issue of the colonialists and the colonized. Nothing religious about it.
Yes. Thank you so much for pointing that out. I think it's very important that everyone realizes that it's not a religious conflict, it's just a conflict against humanity. Now, Naomi, thank you so much for joining us. I think I'm being reminded because of time we have to wrap up the show. But before we go, anything else you'd love to add on?
I would like to invite people to the events we are organizing during this Christmas period.
Yes.
Today we will be at Cheche Bookshop and Cafe starting from 4. We have a beautiful photo exhibition that will be running for 1 hour before we start our event. Please come and attend, come and stand in solidarity with Palestinians. And then on the 24th, we'll be in Mathare at Mathare Social Justice Center starting at 2 to 6. And on 26th, we'll be at Jivanji Gardens. You are all invited from 2 to 6 again.
Thank you so
You
much.
are all
Naomi.
invited. Please, you cannot afford to be neutral.
Yes.
Anyone who is neutral in this issue is pro-Israel, is
Yes.
pro the oppressor.
Yes.
You cannot afford to be neutral.
Thank you for that. Anyone who's neutral in this situation has sided with the oppressor. And just to remind everyone, I think I'll say, Naomi, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your opinion and your expertise. Just to remind everybody, today at Cheche Bookstore from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. On 24th at Mathare Social Justice Center, and on 26th at the Jivanji Gardens. So anyone who is interested in coming and joining Naomi and her team will probably be more than happy. They'd be more than happy to welcome you. And I think that brings me to the end of today's show. Once again, thank you so much for staying with us here on Horizon TV. That was a very impactful conversation. Get your list, continue adding companies and organizations. Be very, very aware of companies that are supporting the genocide in Palestine, and educate yourself more than ever. Once again, thank you so much. Until next Friday, Ma'as salam.